A very warm welcome to you, Vivek ji, on our podcast. On behalf of Soil Cup, I, Sarla, welcome you to today's show.
Thank you very much, and good evening to you, and good evening or good day to all the listeners who are going to be listening to us. Thank
Yeah,
you for
thank
inviting me.
thank you so much. To all those viewers who are going to watch our show today. So, for those viewers, I'm going to give a little brief introduction of who Vivek ji is. Vivek ji is a TEDx Hyderabad curator. He's a founder and CEO of Upsurge Global, a strategic advisor and consultant for Gunj. He's an author. He's also a speaker and an essayist. Viiveck Verma is also deeply into social and philanthropy work. He has done a lot of contribution towards the people during the COVID time also. So, but more and more about Vivek, he is going to talk about exactly who he is and where he comes from and what he is, passionately doing every single day of his life. So over to you, Vivek ji. Please introduce yourself as to, where you come from, how you started your journey, and what exactly, is motivating you to do so much of good work, so, philanthropy work in the current days.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kamla, and thank you for that introduction. Yes, for the sake of our viewers, I'm a little bit of a nomadic person. As a family, I am Verma, which is originating from UP, from a small place near Allahabad. But it's been three generations that we've been, actually four generations now that we've been out of Allahabad. My grandfather, who was a freedom fighter, kind of moved from there and settled down in Jabalpur. So my father grew up in Jabalpur, but he was an army officer, served a lot of his time in Pune. So I grew up in Pune, and then lived in a few other cities like Bombay, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and now settled in Hyderabad. So that's what I meant, that I'm kind of a nomadic person by family origins, UPite, by birth and growing up a Maharashtrian, and now settled in Hyderabad, so Telanganite in that sense. Uh, and I think as a child growing up in Pune in a protected environment as a army officer's son, I had the best exposure going to Kendriya Vidyalaya, spent my first 12 years there, did my graduation from Pune from a prestigious Ferguson College, followed by my further education in law and management. So I did my LLB and part-time evening MBA, and then started my corporate life and spent about 30 years in the corporate world before I hung my boots about 10 years ago and became
Right.
what I call a corporate jump out. And then I've started a few of these things that Kamla talked about. So been doing that ever since.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vivek ji. So, in fact, I would like to know how this transition happened, from a corporate life. You moved to a social sector totally. So what made you shift, from a corporate? What made you hang your boots after 30 years?
So I guess, thankfully, life was kind to me in the corporate world, though I did have some challenges on the personal side, but staying with professional for now, I was doing well. I spent almost 15 years as the head of the business. The titles changed from a general manager to a CEO to a managing director to an executive director. But essentially, the
Right.
role was managing the entire business and being the owner of the P&L. So in that sense, the numbers changed, the overall strength of the organization changed. And I realized in about 2013, 2014 that I'm kind of hitting a glass ceiling in the
Right.
corporate world. I have a
Right.
large workforce. A corporate that I managed had a workforce of 65,000 employees. I was managing a few hundred crores. But what I realized is that it doesn't matter at the end of the day what the overall organizational strength is or the revenue turnover is. You are essentially managing a bunch of 10 to 12 people who report to you directly. Thereafter, the rest of it is being managed by people. So you are no longer in a role which is anything other than managing people. And that's when I felt that, if that is the role that I'm doing and that's where I'm hitting a glass ceiling, then I
Right,
might as well do something which gives me more satisfaction and where I can work with people a lot more. So when I
right,
quit the corporate world, I was already doing some amount of social impact work
correct.
because of some reasons on my personal side, and maybe it might be worth it to just spend a couple of minutes to get a background of why a lot of this thinking
Absolutely. I
comes
would
in.
definitely like to touch upon that subject because that's also when we talk about people, your our personal life is not, to be left behind. So who we are in our personal life is what we go and reflect in the corporate life also. So this is very important, life and family, everything is important. So do please share so that the people who are watching will understand, more deeply the purpose behind your life, the mission which you have in your life, Vivek.
Sure. So, like I said, personally, in about 99, 2000, when I
Right.
was kind of happily married, living a successful life, both people working well, was suddenly kind of dealt with a blow when my wife was detected with breast cancer. And
Right.
then from 99 to 2011, it was an 11-year long journey of 11 recurrences and being a partner watching all of this, because at the end of the day, you can help, you can support, but you obviously are not the one going through that journey. And when she went through these 11 recurrences, multiple chemotherapies, multiple radiations, a couple of surgeries, it's not easy. And that life actually taught me a lot of things that I now practice. But eventually in 2011 we lost the battle, and what started with breast cancer eventually spread to her multiple parts in the body, but eventually to the liver, to which we lost her in 2011. And by
I'm
that time I
extremely
had,
sorry.
yeah, thank you. And by that time we had adopted two daughters, and we had adopted that with keeping in mind very clearly that we don't want to take a chance genetically of, because that will remain as a doubt in our mind all the time. So we had chosen to adopt them. And while I was adopting my second daughter, I came to know about an archaic law in India which does not allow
Yes.
you
Yes.
to adopt a second child of the same gender. And I'm
Exactly.
someone who's built to fight when I get an opportunity. And I chose to take that as an opportunity. And I did bring her younger daughter home as a guardian to begin with, and
Right.
then fought a legal case
Right.
which lasted about 4 or 5 years. And
Oh my God.
thankfully won the case. And we changed the law. So it's no
Mm,
longer the Hindu Adoption Act, which no longer has this restriction. You can
right.
adopt any number of children. You can adopt
Right.
children of any gender. So I think all of these taught me a lot of lessons. And at that time in 2011, when I lost Prerna, my first wife, I was at that point of the journey where I had spent those 11 years, where the one thing that I learned is that every night when you went to sleep, you had no idea whether when you wake up tomorrow morning, you would have your partner or not. And
Right.
that's not an easy journey to live with. But the upside of that, Sarla, is that after that, any other stress that comes seems a lot lesser. And I saw that very subconsciously translating into my work life. That while there was one way of saying that this will make you extremely stressed, but I dealt with it in a manner that we have to do what we have to do. In a certain way, you can't deal with fate in any other way. So let us do what we need to do and hope for the best. And that's how, when we lived those 11 years, I learned that lesson, which I apply to most of my corporate life and now my
Right.
entrepreneurial life. that as long as you are doing what you're doing, and to some extent it may sound, like the shloka from Gita that, karma karo, phal ki upeksha mat karo. And
Right.
that's how I led my life. And in 2011, I was at that juncture where suddenly I find myself as a single father to an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old girl. And they are about to, at least the elder one is about to turn into puberty. And I had no kind of false notion that would
Hmm.
I be able to do a good job of raising two girls as a single father.
Right.
And I knew
Right.
that that's not something that I'm going to be able to do easily. And secondly, I had that, almost a guilt saying that I brought them home. They could have gone to some other home. And it's not
Hmm.
fair for them to grow up with a single father and not get what they rightfully deserved. And hence, and obviously, I also found myself alone. So it's not that. And I decided that I will continue my life and I will remarry because I need a partner and the girls need a mother. And in 2012, I got married and shifted to Hyderabad, and I've been living here thereafter. So I think this cycle of these 12, 13, 14 years, and then
Right.
suddenly you're finding that we are four of us now, and we say this all the time, the four of us who are not biologically or genetically connected to each other. All of us come from very different pedigrees. Usually in a
Absolutely.
family of four, two of them are genetically connected to you. In our case, that's not the case. And now
Right.
my girls have grown up. My elder one is finished her master's, is working
Right.
now, 24 years of age. The younger one is just turned an adult, started her graduation of design in Pune. So both of them have, with the grace of God, grown up well, and we've settled down well. So I think God has been kind. But the reason I wanted to say this was less from a empathy or sympathy perspective, but
Yes.
more because a lot of my learnings came from there. And when I
Yes.
decided to hang my corporate boots in 2015, some of these lessons and this glass ceiling brought me to a point that I should now start something where I can help others. And I realized that help others can happen in three broad areas, and which is what
Right.
the work I do. One is to say my passion lies in social impact. So I have
Right.
seen through the journey of orphanages while I was adopting my girls. I have seen the journey of healthcare through those 11
Right.
years through my wife. I have
Yes.
seen the journey of remarriage and how that is not an easy thing when you marry when you are in your 40s, because you suddenly are two adults who have a mindset of their own now, and now you have to
Right.
live together. So having seen all this, I knew that people can be helped. So that's where the philanthropy side of the work I do came in. The second side that I saw was a lot of young entrepreneurs, young
Hmm.
startups, especially
Right.
children, college children, school children. They don't know much about this whole entrepreneurship and startups.
Correct.
So that's
Correct.
the second vertical in which I do a lot of my work. And because I have a home to run, because I have a wife and two daughters to take care, I have to do some commercial work. And hence, I do some strategic advising and consulting. So that's where the Upsurge Global as a boutique consulting firm comes in. And I do work
Right.
one third, one third, one third in each of these three areas over the last 10 years.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, in so much of clarity. I think you sound like somebody who's totally sorted now. You must have gone through a lot of challenges and you have gone through a lot of pain in life. But out of all that, I think what I can hear is, that today is what is so important. And today you seem to be at peace. You seem to be sorted. You seem to be living a life with a purpose. And I think ultimately everybody wants to do this only. So some people realize after probably when they're maybe 30 years old, or some realize when they're 60 years old. You have to face these little challenges in life and then move to a different sector altogether and learn these things. But it's an amazing journey, a very unique journey. I think each human being has a different story, and your
Absolutely.
story is also totally unique. And I'm sure people would learn a lot when they listen to your side of the story also. Amazing, amazing journey,
Absolutely.
sir.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for those kind words, Vasala. And I think as a curator of TEDx, this is our 10th year, and that's a
I wanted to
platform.
speak about that also, Vivek ji. I wanted to
Sure,
speak about the
sure,
TEDx curator Hyderabad. Yeah,
sure. So 10 years ago, I joined the TEDx Hyderabad team as a volunteer. I saw a
right,
post on social media, and this is the time when I was just about to quit the corporate world, and I had
right,
the luxury of working as a leader in a large corporate. So I joined the group as a volunteer. I offered my boardroom for the team to come and have our meetings. So that's how my journey with TEDx started 10 years ago.
right,
But
right.
I had a vision after I finished the first event in 2015, that I think this is a platform which is a wonderful platform to really bring unheard stories. And my personal
Absolutely.
belief is that every human being, without exception, every human being has multiple stories. And at least one of them is worth sharing with the rest of the world. Now, the question is to find the best story and then curate the best story so that it can be compressed. And as you know, TEDx is a platform where you can talk for 18 minutes or less. So, how do you then compress the story in less than 18 minutes? And the tagline for TED and TEDx is ideas worth sharing. So, how do
Right,
you bring it in that format that people can then share these stories? And it's not just to the audience sitting in the room, but
right,
via the TEDx YouTube channel, how can it go to millions of people around the world? And so that's how we started that event. What was a 500 attendee event in 2015 before pandemic became a 3,000 attendee event. And within the TEDx scheme of things, our event was something that a lot of people looked up to, not just in the city of Hyderabad, but also within the TEDx organizers committee around the world. So a lot of
right,
people would come to attend our event because we had set a benchmark, which was
right,
amongst the top few around the world. We also did a lot of work in capacity building for other organizers so they could organize events in a much better manner. 50, 60 of the organizers from around the country, we would call at our expense to train them for a 2 to 3 day period on how to run a TEDx event. And I think my
right,
learning from these 10 years has been, like you rightly said a little while ago, that there are amazing stories. And some of them get a platform, many of
yes,
them don't get a platform. So, how do we
yes.
find a way to bring those stories? So, our endeavor at TEDx has been to find hidden gems. So, we do have
Wow,
one or two known speakers where people kind of can relate to them or they've at least heard of them. But amongst the 13 to 14 speakers we bring on our stage every year, at least 9 to 10 of them are unknown till then,
right,
and they come
right,
on our platform and they share their story, and it makes, we've seen over the last 10 years, it makes phenomenal difference. Some of them get inspired, some of them join those activities with them, some of them come forward and support them in financial or non-financial terms. We've had
right,
3 feature films which have come out of our platform, that people heard our story and they went back and made a feature film, a full length feature film, two Hindi and one Telugu movie has come out. So a couple of people on the lighter side have also got married to each other and they met each other for the first time at our event. Some of our audience has become our speakers because when we got
right.
to know them, we realized they have fantastic stories and they could go up
Excellent.
and share their stories. So it's been a wonderful experience. We've had close to 140 speakers. So imagine
Right,
getting personally connected to 140 people and their stories
right.
very, very closely because we spent 2 to 3 months to curate their talk. So it's been an
Oh,
amazing journey. It's been
right,
an amazing journey. We will do our 10th year event later this year. So it will be
Right.
a fantastic milestone to cross.
Wonderful, wonderful. I hope you will also, use the platform of Soil Cup to propagate this wonderful mission of yours, Vivek ji. Because
Sure,
as you know,
more than
Soil
happy
Cup
to.
is a digital marketing company, and we are definitely, into helping entrepreneurs have a wider reach. So I would definitely get in touch with you at a later stage,
Sure,
for this program and this
sure,
event. Yeah, definitely. Thank
sure,
you so
sure.
much. Amazing. I'm so inspired myself. Can you also share a little bit about your, the SAHI, the Society for Advancement of Human Endeavor? What
Sure.
exactly is this SAHI, and how do you contribute through SAHI, sir?
Absolutely. So when we started the journey for the TEDx events, now many of the TEDx events happen as an event. So it is organized by somebody who runs it like an event. And
Right,
hence, so there are two parts to it. One is because there are some commercials that happen in an event. So they
right.
use this as an event and they run an event, and whatever remains with them. We were very clear that we wanted to run this as a volunteer driven activity. And we
Mm-hmm.
also wanted to build transparency. With my 30 years of corporate experience, I
Right,
wanted to bring that here and say that while we don't take a rupee, we also want to transparently be able to tell the world that that's how we run
right,
it. So TEDx events are organized by the not-for-profit society called SAHI, Society for Advancement of Human Endeavor. And
right,
then we realized that when we are building this community, today we have a community of almost 8 to 10,000 people. These are people
right,
who are connected to us through these events. And when the speaker and the audience get connected to each other, we build a community. Then we started thinking that what do we do with this community? Because our idea of running a TEDx event was also to bring speakers and then kind of invoke a feeling of wanting to do something in the audience. And then when they want to do something, we need to give them a route by which they can do those things. So
right,
in Sahi, then we started working on 5 areas. How can we look at technology,
right,
healthcare, civic responsibility, which was focused on water, art and music, which was focused on trying to bring new venues for smaller artists to come and perform, and in
right,
education, which was focused on how do we take more and more books through libraries to rural schools and various areas. So we
right.
started doing work in these 5 areas, connected with some of our speakers, connected with a lot of the audience. And by the time we reached our third year or a fourth year, we realized that through the Sahi platform, we were able to also raise some money for
Wow.
social impact work. And people
Right,
were willing to come forward and start working with us in the not for profit. But our original idea was to tell the world that whatever happens at our event is through a not for profit. We don't take a single rupee because these are large format events. When you do a 3,000 attendee event for a whole day, it obviously is a very large format event. It almost runs into 1 crore to 2 crores. Now, when
mm,
that kind of money is changing hands, we want to be transparent with people we are working with to say that this
right,
is not something because I want to earn for myself. By the grace of
right,
God,
right,
I have other
right,
other routes to earn my living, and so does the entire team. It's a team. It's not just me alone. I have an outstanding team who've been with us for over these 10 years. So none of us take anything out of this platform. Then with this money we raised, we started working on water, like I said, which has been our biggest uh, positive point. So we've revived about 8 to 10,000 defunct bore wells. We have worked on 2 or 3 lakes. We have now worked on 3 or 4 step wells in the city of Hyderabad. And most importantly, our stepwell work has really been recognized by the government, by multiple people, not just in Hyderabad and Telangana or India, but globally. Because
wonderful.
this is a very scientific way we are doing that. And, we spent on each of these stepwells, we spent close to 3 to 4 crores. And this is, getting 2,000 to 3,000 metric tons of waste out and then restoring it to its original, form as it existed a few hundred years ago, and then turning
Right.
it into a tourist spot.
Okay.
So it's been some amazing work on water there. Similarly, we've done about 150 libraries, which we have
Wow.
set up in rural schools. We have trained about 8,000 drivers, Uber drivers, and bus drivers on emergency uh, first aid that they can give, especially about CPR. Because
Right.
a lot
Right.
of heart attack deaths happen on the road. So
Right.
how do we solve that? So we do some of these activities through Sahi, and that's part of that whole philanthropic side of things, that we want to make a difference to people's lives. That's what
Wonderful.
we do in Sahi, Sarla.
And so most of your work is all related only to Hyderabad, or is it pan-India?
So in Sahi, all our work is related to Hyderabad.
Hyderabad.
In Upsurge Global, the startup work that I do is related to all India. I work with
Right.
many incubators. I work with startups from all across the country. I have invested in about 35 startups myself, and I have
Right.
mentored now close to about 220 startups. And these startups
Amazing.
come from anywhere. And my preference is actually to work with tier two, tier three, tier four entrepreneurs, because they are the ones who I feel need a lot more support, and more
Right.
importantly, value the support they get. Because today in metros, there's a problem of plenty. So if I'm in a Bangalore or a Hyderabad, I have access to hundreds of mentors. Whereas if I am in a Patna or in a Jorhat, then I don't have access to mentors. So I don't
Correct.
know who to go to. So that's where I prefer to do my work. A lot of my startups
Wonderful.
are in tier four, tier three, four, five cities.
Right.
And to
Amazing.
your question, there's one more initiative that I do want to talk about. I, along with my wife, actually the other way around, my wife along with me, run
Yeah.
a NGO called Invisible Scars.
Yeah, Invisible
This is
Scar Foundation. I wanted to touch upon that
that's a
after, yeah,
that's a
after you
sure,
completed this.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Please tell
Invisible
us more
Scars,
about this,
yeah,
about this venture, the Invisible Scar Foundation.
yeah. So it's Invisible Scars Foundation. This is something that my wife founded about 8 years ago. And
Right.
this is a foundation which works on domestic abuse and domestic violence.
Right.
And we've been doing this work now for about 8 years. So I'm a director in Invisible Scars Foundation. It's an NGO which the two of us run. I think, in the last 7, 8 years, we've helped about 3,500 survivors from 12 countries and about 63 cities in India. So our work is global in Invisible Scars that we do. And the work we do is the entire help that a survivor would need. It's gender neutral.
Right.
Unfortunately, we live in a patriarchal world, and coming
Yes.
from a man, it may sound odd, but that's the reality. And as a result, majority of the survivors are women, because they are subject to the patriarchal thinking, and quite often the toxic variety of patriarchal thinking. And not just in India, but in many parts of the world. In India, it's a little more grave. 1 in 2.5 to 1 in 3 women are facing abuse in some manner or
Right.
the other. And the reason we
Right.
call it invisible scars is because the abuse is not necessarily physical. Quite often it is emotional, quite often it is financial, very often it is sexual, quite often it is also in the verbal abuse that happens. So abuse is of
Absolutely.
multiple variety, and many of
Absolutely.
those you can't see, and hence they are invisible scars that you can't see, but they are still going through abuse. So that's the work we do at Invisible Scars, starting from counseling to police help to legal help to rehabilitation, to making sure they can find a job, to making
Right.
sure if they have children that their children get taken care, their education or vocational. So all of that is what we do at Invisible Scars Foundation.
Absolutely. I think all this sounds, very much like they are the need of the hour, all these areas. And I don't think it is enough only if we keep waiting for the government to do something or for the politicians to do something. Each human beings, I think, is responsible towards all these things. And you're doing a fantastic job, Vivekji. I must really
Are-
commend. But I want to know from where do you get this kind of energy, that you're doing, because it's not easy. 9 to 5 corporate job is okay. But this kind of a job needs tremendous, energy, inner strength, courage, confidence, and motivation. Where do you get that from? What makes you run every morning?
I think it's the people we connect with, Sarla. That, and my belief is that I've lived a life 30 years. When you wanted to go to sleep in the night, there were lots of thoughts in your minds, and you quite often you weren't satisfied. And
Right,
one kind of slept or attempted to sleep, but there was too much unresolved issues in your mind. Now, I think what I find the most satisfying now is that if you have worked on working with people, whether through Sahi, whether through Invisible Scars, or whether through Upsurge, whether you're a women entrepreneur or a
Mhm.
young entrepreneur, it gives you tremendous satisfaction that you could make a difference to somebody's life. And
Right,
when they come back and when you see their success, like I said, 220 startups that I have mentored, like it happens, some of them have closed down, but that's natural.
right,
At least the founder found the courage and the energy to say, this is not working, and I will shut it down
right,
and I'll move forward. And
right,
similarly, many of them have been very successful. But in either case, when you meet the founder a little time later after you have mentored them, you get that satisfaction and they come back and tell you that thank you for that advice. That advice helped me to either shut down my business or grow my business and really take it to a different level. Or similarly, in the philanthropic side, if we have restored a step well, for example, the people
right,
living around it come back and tell us that what a fantastic job you guys have done. Our living conditions have improved. We were living next to a dump yard earlier, and now it's become a beautiful spot where so many people come. So our quality of life has improved. And on the side note, our real estate value has improved because now
right,
people are willing to buy apartments. So all of that gives you so much satisfaction. And when you put your head on the pillow in the night, I think that's what gives you that happiness and satisfaction to get a good night's sleep. And I think that's what drives you to say, okay, if that's what I can do, then why am I not doing it with more people? Because all it needs to do is to go spend that half an hour, 40 minutes with people,
right,
and it can make a massive difference. For example, during COVID, the entire 2 years, we realized that
right,
most of us who did work with some corporate as a consultant, there was
right,
no work. All of us were locked down in our houses. So we were all stuck. There was very little you could do outside your home. And at that
right.
stage, through my Upsurge global platform, I opened a window of every day from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You could just reach out to me through a technology that I put out saying you could book a slot of a 45-minute call with me at no cost.
Wow.
And during the course of COVID, in these 2 to 3 hours every day, I must have spoken to about. So as I was saying, during COVID, these 300-400 people I could speak to, and a lot of them were at that point struggling because their businesses, whatever they had started, was shut, and they didn't know what's the direction they should take. And you're stuck at home, so you really don't know what to do. And I think it made a big difference for me because I suddenly had an avenue to talk to at least 3 or 4 people every day.
Right,
And for them, because they could speak to someone and, kind of take the things out that, I'm struggling now. What do I do? Let's say somebody is running a food business. Now, suddenly
right,
the restaurant is closed. Nobody is coming
right.
there. So what should I do? What can I do? I have a staff. I have
Correct.
costs. I have, all of that. So it was a wonderful experience both for me and for them. And similarly, I was involved in running a 200-bed hospital during COVID. So we actually set up a completely free of cost hospital with the help of some support from corporate world who came and contributed financially, but a few of us who
Right.
volunteered to run it. And I was kind of the de facto CEO of a hospital which we ran for about 5 months and treated close to 300 people, completely free
Right.
of cost, where we
Right.
didn't charge for anything, including stay, doctors, medicines, including remedicine. And I think at that stage, one more funny thing happened, which kind of took me a little more deeper into the journey of working on the social impact space. That as human beings, we have done so much to erode faith. When we were running this hospital for people who could come without any cost, people refuse to believe that it is fully free. And on one particular day, we had a green zone and a red zone like most hospitals had. So I used to sit in the green zone because I was running the administrative side of things. The reception called me and said, I think you need to come down because we have a bit of a problem. And when I
Right.
went down, we saw 4 or 5 patients who are in quite a bad state and they need to get
Right.
admitted and the treatment needs to start, but their relatives are not willing because they said that the registration is saying there is no cost. And we
Right.
don't believe that. So please tell us what is the cost, because the last thing we want, and that's what really touched me, the last thing we want is, God forbid, if something happens to our relative and they pass away, then you won't give us the body and say this much money has to be
Oh my
paid.
God. Oh Lord. Huh.
So you tell
Hmm.
us, what will you charge us for? Remdesivir, at least you will charge, food you will charge. It cannot be that you will not charge for anything. We don't believe you. And then
Hmm.
we had to really, speak to the local police commissioner. Thankfully, he was part of our volunteer group, and we got a large undertaking written, and a poster made so that people can get that faith. We would sign and give people a undertaking every time they were getting admitted that there will be no charges,
Yes.
including remdesivir. And that made me realize that how much faith have we eroded in people, that even when
I
they
was
get something
absolutely,
for
I was
free.
just about to, touch upon that, that probably people have stopped believing that
That's
there could be a good Samaritan. There
correct.
could be a good human being who's doing
Correct.
selflessly something without, thinking what is it, what is in it for me? I'm sure it
And
has
it's so
happened.
deep. Yeah, and it is
Yeah,
so deep that, despite the person being so unwell, they are
yes.
still not ready to believe. Usually one would believe at that point, saying, okay, वो मतलब डूबते को छोटा सा भी मिलेगा तो काम होगा, but they are not willing. They are saying, no, 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 you guys, this is all a racket. You will say free
Oh,
now, and later on you'll charge something. So so it touched me, and I said, I think it's important that the good people and the good stories need to really come out and restore the faith that
probably,
people have lost.
it could also be one reason that maybe, like if it was a Mother Teresa's organization, charity organization or somebody, then people would believe because,
Correct,
she walked the path of a
correct,
missionary.
correct,
But
correct,
because you and I are ordinary human beings wearing the normal,
correct,
regular clothes and then living a
correct,
regular life, people would definitely look at us with lot of, skepticism. And they will be
correct.
cynical about this, why are you doing
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
understand. And I also
yeah.
believe that during the COVID time, you did a lot of work in terms of providing computers and laptops for people so that they could work. Was there any project like that also that you were helping?
I mean, I wouldn't really say that was an area where I did too much work. We did help people,
Right,
in terms of being able to, like I said, it was less about the device. It was more about them finding a way to keep themselves occupied and,
right,
and do work. So create volunteering opportunities. So, and
right,
when lockdown opened, then how do we create a place where people can come? So the hospital was that. How do we work to say food distribution can happen in other areas, or medicine distribution can happen in other areas? because a lot of people were really suffering at that stage, and it was not just medically, it was also financially, it was also
Right.
emotionally, it was in multiple other ways. And another, sad part was that when we come to the Invisible Scars Foundation side, that was the worst phase, because this is the time when the abuser and the abused were forced to be in the same room or the same house for 24 hours of the day. Earlier, at least you got a window because the abuser went away to do work or whatever. So at least half
Oh,
a day
yes.
you. So now it was a question of you are locked in the same room quite often, otherwise in the same house for 24 hours. So the
Right.
incidents went up drastically, and
Right,
the
right, right.
abuse went up drastically. So that also was a big challenge that we had to deal with in Invisible Scars Foundation during COVID.
Mm. And what did you do, to maintain your own sanity, amidst all these things? And were you also, kind of, and rejuvenating yourself? And where did you get your energy from? Do you do some practice, anything to do, to get energy from?
I think for me, the energy comes from people, so
Right,
the more, and I'm someone who's built that I have to do multiple things with multiple people all the time. If I don't do it, I get restless, so that's why during COVID, when we were sitting at home, I said, okay, I'll open it up and talk to people. So at least चार पांच लोगों से बात होगी.
yes,
Of
yes,
course, family is a great unit. So, four of us as a family, and during COVID, thankfully, all of us were also kind of locked up at home. So I think two things that give me energy is the family that
yes,
you can come back to when you know. And fortunately, as a family, we are very socially oriented, so
right,
both me and my wife are involved in social impact activities. Thankfully, both
right,
our daughters are also while they're studying or they're starting their life now, but they're very socially active. And I think that goes back uh, partly to what they saw early on, coming
right,
from an orphanage into a
right.
home, then seeing their, mother go through the suffering and then eventually losing her and then adjusting to somebody new. So obviously
Yeah.
they've also had a journey where they've gone through a lot and probably learned a lot, so in that sense, I think that unit gives me a lot of energy. And working
Mm.
with people, when you today I
Yes,
write an article for the last 3 years now. I write an article every week, and it's on a very so there's no sectoral focus I have in my articles. I write about the human, so it'll be
right,
about entrepreneurship, it'll be about social impact, it'll be about thinking, it'll be about how government should run, it'll be about how geopolitical politics is going around. So it is on anything that comes to my mind in a week. I pen it
right.
down into a 500-600 word article and I write it every week. It's now been about 3 years that I've been writing that, and that itself has
And you
given me
publish the
connection.
articles, or where do
I
you publish
published
the
that.
articles, and where,
Yes,
in
I
any
published
forum, or magazine, or is
Telangana
it the media
newspaper. It's a newspaper in
newspaper?
Hyderabad. It's called
Right,
Telangana Today. So
right,
every week they publish my article. And I'm
right,
also in the process of, one book is ready, which has 100 articles. The second book is almost kind of will finish in the next few months. So I think before the end of this year, two of these books will come out,
right,
which is compilation of these articles in a manner that people will find it useful. So even through these articles, I connect with so many people. So you go
right,
to various places, and a lot of people, and I do it not in a commercial manner with the newspaper. So there is no
right.
commercials involved. I'm not one of those whatever they are called in the media terms, that you write a column and you get paid for it. I do it pure out of my wanting to let this knowledge go out to people.
Yes,
A lot of
yes,
people used to ask me when I started this 2 years ago that what do you get by writing this article every week? And it so
right,
happened that on one of the travels that we were doing with one of these naysayers, we were both traveling together and we were at the
right,
airport. And
right.
suddenly two people walked up to me and said, "Thank you very much, sir. I read your article and I loved that article of yours." And
Right.
I didn't know that person, but
Right.
because the publication prints the article and puts a photo there, he could
Right.
recognize. And I just looked at that person and he said, "Okay, I got my answer. Now I know why you write these things."
Right.
I said,
Right.
"Yeah,
Right.
because we don't know who's reading them and we don't know who may benefit out
Yes.
of reading that." So I think to your long answer to your short question, but I think the energy comes from the family and energy comes from people
Wonderful.
who or whose lives I may touch somehow.
Right. Is there any success story, or any story, single incident which is very, very close to your heart, that you cherish? Anything positive, that
I,
you're happy about, that brings a smile to you.
Many of them, Sarla, but I think one or two which come to me are, and because it's my a lot of my work is about people. So I think two things which stand out for me are both stories from the TEDx platform.
Right.
And both are from our first event that we did in 2015.
Right.
So one of them was a very young filmmaker,
Right.
Anshul Sinha, who actually approached me. He didn't know, he was a very young lad, now very successful filmmaker, but that time a very young person who used to do films using mobile phones. And he didn't know what TED as a platform is. So he was chasing me saying, "Can my film be premiered on your event?"
Okay.
And I kept explaining to him over phone, saying, "No, film cannot be premiered. This is not what a TEDx format is for."
Right.
And he thought
Right.
I was just saying no because I didn't like it or something like that. So he
Right.
kept chasing me, and I kept telling him that no, it's not possible, Anshul, that that can happen. And one
Right.
fine day, I see him. He lands up at my house and
Right.
says, "Sir, I've heard you that it can't happen, but I want you to watch the film. And then you decide what you want to do with it, whether you can or you can't." I said, "Look, I will watch the film. Thank you that you've come to my house. I'll watch the film, but I am not saying this even before seeing your film. It has nothing to do with your film. It's just that this is not the format.
Right.
So I'm not being rude to you or anything like that. It's not allowed. But having
Right.
said that, let us watch the movie." And it was a movie he had made on illegal organ donation
Okay.
happening happening through a whole trade of people who are admitted in hospitals and have no relatives.
Kidney,
So
is it a
so
kidney organ transplant or something?
all organs,
All organs. Okay.
kidney, liver, all organs. So, and he had made a movie using his mobile phone to say that this is going on, and there was obviously it's a racket. So there was obviously a lot of death threat and all that on him. The movie was called Gateway to Heaven, and it's available on YouTube, on various
Right.
places now. But at that time, he had made that movie, and he said, "How do I take it to people? How do I take this?" So I said, "Look, we can't take the movie, but I can get you on stage to talk about your journey of how
Right.
you started your journey as a small social impact movie maker and how you kind of came to this movie." So we gave him an opportunity of a 6 minute talk. And I said, "I will fight with my team and I'll get you an opportunity to speak, but we'll only give you 6, 7 minutes. So it will be a very brief talk." And we curated that and we did that talk. And today, starting from that journey that he had in 2015, he's gone on to make three, four more movies. Now he's making a feature film. So an extremely successful filmmaker, both in the social impact space and outside. So every time I meet him, and I meet
Mm.
him once every few weeks, it
Right.
just gives me so much joy to watch him
Right.
and see how he has progressed and also have that feeling that I have a small role to play in his success. And
Right.
that's what we set out to do. So I think that's one story which stands out. The other one is
Right.
of a girl called Kiran Kanodia, who is India's first uh, women Blade Runner. Now, she came to attend our first year event, and we didn't know anything about this. She was just an attendee. And
Right.
in our events, we give a 3 hour, 45-minute coffee breaks and a 1.5 hour lunch break. So there's 3 hours of networking. So in one of those networking breaks, we kind of got talking to her, and she came saying she's very inspired, and we were generally talking, and we got to realize that she's lost both her legs in an
Like,
accident, and she's on a
right.
blade, which we couldn't see because she was very shy, and she wouldn't even talk, and her belief was that she was very ashamed of the fact that
Oh,
she's lost both her legs.
right.
And so she would stay quiet, speak very softly, hide behind somebody. And then we started talking to her, and we realized that her accident was because somebody was trying to steal her purse from a train, and they threw her off the
Oh,
train.
oh, yes, yes, yes.
And she fell on the tracks, and the track went on her legs, and as a result, they had to be amputated. I said at the end of the day, when we got talking after the event in the next few days, few weeks, we said, if at all the world has to feel ashamed of
Yeah,
what they did to you, why are you feeling ashamed? You
absolutely.
have nothing to feel. And then we worked with her over a period of time, and then I think 1 or 2 years later, we got
Right.
her to a point where she was confident to come and deliver a TEDx talk wearing a skirt. And she said, now it's okay. People can see my blades and I'm not worried. So I think
Right.
that journey of kind of turning that shy, ashamed girl to be a
Right.
confident, and today she's speaking across the country in various platforms,
Amazing.
going and telling people her story. So I think these two, from individual story perspective, stand out. There are many in the startup world, many at many
Right.
other places, because that's what really we enjoy doing. So, but these two stand out just to name a couple of stories.
Amazing. I mean,
And I
I'm
think
just speechless.
I think
I'm speechless.
uh, so Sanna, the belief that I have, and a lot of times, and I say this all the time, this entrepreneurship is so misunderstood that the
Right.
world only thinks about entrepreneurship is about startup.
Yeah.
And I think entrepreneurship is about finding a problem and solving the problem. That's what an entrepreneur does. Some of them do it for money, they become startup founders. Some
Right.
of them do it for research, they become innovators. And many of them do it for social impact, they become philanthropists or whatever. But all of them are entrepreneurs. And I use this example very often, and I talk to a lot of students in colleges. I deliver
Right.
lectures and speaking sessions, and I talk about to me the greatest example of an entrepreneur is a mother. There can be no better entrepreneur than a mother, because entrepreneur's job is to start something new, take the risks associated with it, and take the responsibility for the success or the failure. And nobody is a better example of doing all of this than a mother. All of us, didn't stand up one day and start walking. All of us didn't start speaking a sentence all at once. And similarly, all of us didn't cycle on the first day or swim on the first day. There was somebody who encouraged us, somebody who never gave up on us. If some of us didn't stand up and it took us 50 attempts or 100 attempts before we walked, it wasn't as if after the 3 attempts that a lot of times we do today in our corporate world or in the commercial world, that somebody makes a mistake 3 times, we fire the person. Imagine if that's what your mother did with you when you couldn't walk 3 times. She would
Yes.
have said, "Oh, yeah, tomorrow useless, you can't walk." That doesn't work, right? And there are many more
Someone who
such.
doesn't judge also, a mother who doesn't
Doesn't
judge
judge at
also,
all. Absolutely, because
and
she's
doesn't
taken
laugh
the
at you when you're,
responsibility.
making mistakes. Yes.
That's right. Somebody who's taken
Very
your
well said. Very well
responsibility.
said.
Yeah.
Very well
So
said.
entrepreneurship to me is a mindset. You know, so everything that I do in my mind is an entrepreneurial work. It's about saying, okay, where is the problem? There is problem in the startup world, let me try and solve it. There is problem in the social impact sector, let me solve it. And of course, there are problems in the commercial world. So that's what I do in all three of my verticals. And to me, that is entrepreneurship. And that's why I'm involved with school children. And we talk to
Right.
school children about entrepreneurial mindset. Because
Mm.
if we can inculcate that habit of being able to spot a problem and then build
Yeah.
a solution to that problem from such a young age, then life will be very, very different. So entrepreneurship
Because
is
I
not
think
about
what most
startups.
of the people think nowadays is, if- let's put the blame on somebody. I'm not able to do
Correct?
this, or there is a problem going on, so let's blame this person,
Correct.
let's blame that person. Nobody wants to take
Correct.
that responsibility. So I think as an
Correct.
entrepreneur, most important thing is, as you very rightly said, you find a problem and then you find a solution to the problem. Then you take a responsibility, because I think this is a very deep and very profound thing, that if each human being, if each citizen can take responsibility in some way, like everybody need not give up their life, the corporate life, or earning money, or whatever their circumstances might be, but in some little way, each human being can contribute. And you have done a
Absolutely.
lot. I think on behalf of many people, you have taken that responsibility. So thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Vivek? I have one more question. Why, regarding your name, your spelling. So before I close the show today,
So
so
there are two
what is the, the secret behind this, the spelling?
there are there are two answers to that, Sarla. One is on the humorous side. I changed my spelling about 15 odd years ago. So, and
Right.
I say that this is part of the midlife crisis. When you get to midlife, you can't change your face, you can't change your belly, you can't change your wife, but you can change the spelling of your name. And that's easy. So that's why I did it. So that's on the lighter side. But I think it was during that phase that I was going through with my first wife, where we were looking for hope at various places. And at that
Right.
stage, somebody told us that numerology can also make a difference. So,
Right.
so we went and tried that out. And I think it's a question of faith. In addition to what I talked about entrepreneurship earlier, I think it's equally about faith. So I had the
Right.
faith and I said, okay, let's try it out. And we tried
Mm.
it out, and I think uh, it worked out well enough. So I've just kept it that way. So it's been about 15, 18 years now that I
Right.
changed the spelling and added the extra I and the extra C. The
Right.
the the biggest advantage I get because of that is the name is unique, and with all of the
Yes.
travel and everything that you do,
We can
wherever you
we can
go,
say a man with a a unique name and a
extra
unique
I.
mission. A
Yeah,
man with a
mission I
unique
don't
name
know,
and a
but
unique
spelling
mission.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah. Having
mission I
said that,
don't know, but spelling for sure.
yeah, thank you so much, Vivekji. And it is a pleasure talking to you and
Thank
exchanging
you.
so many thoughts with you. I wish you all the best for all your endeavors. And definitely, Soil Cup is privileged to have a wonderful, personality like you sharing this platform. I'm really honored to be interviewing you today. And
Thank
I
you.
really
Thank you
hope
very
to get in
much.
touch with you very soon. And I have lots to, share and lots to learn from you. I will be calling you up very soon. And
Sure. Thank
before we close, maybe just two lines about Soil
sure,
Cup so that, we could just wind up then. Yeah.
sure. So I think thank you very much, Sarla, for reaching out to me. And I think today for most businesses, most individuals, because like I said earlier, stories are important for us to tell. And I think the best way to do that is through the digital medium. And I think in that sense, you people are doing a wonderful job. And thank you for reaching out to me. And thank you for doing this with me, because this gives an opportunity for us to have this beautiful conversation we had. And I think through this conversation, hopefully, some people will get some new insights and will kind of help them in their lives going forward. So I think in that sense, you people are doing a wonderful job. And
Thank
and
you
thank
so
you
much.
very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for reaching out. And To all the audience listening to us, thank you for listening to us. And please do remember that you have a wonderful story. I don't know you and I haven't met you, but I know that you have a wonderful story. So just find the right platform, find the right way of communicating your story. You may be also lucky to work with Soil Cup and they will carry your story forward. But if not Soil Cup, then there will be some medium that you can find. So go find your story and go tell your story to the world, because who knows, your story may make a difference to somebody's life. So thank you very
Absolutely.
much and wish you all
Yeah.
the best and make a difference to the world, because that's what each of us can do.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Viiveck ji. Thank you. Have
Thank
a
you.
nice evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.